Hey everybody, welcome back to I Know a Guy. If you're new here, my name's Anthony. I'm a business profit advocate. On this show, we interview entrepreneurs, business owners, professionals, or just people doing cool things. For example, today we're meeting David Nordel. He's a retired U.S. Air Force Commander Chief Master Sergeant with over 30 years of service and a #1 best-selling author of Giving Back, Life and Leadership from the Farm to the Combat Zone and Beyond. A seasoned leader and mentor, he specializes in crisis management, veteran transition, and empowering the next generation of leaders with authentic insights drawn from his extraordinary journey. How you doing today, Dave?
Great, Anthony. This is good to be here, man. I love the name of your show because I think everybody needs to know a guy that knows a guy. So I love it.
Yeah, no, I was excited to have you on. You've led a very interesting life. You have a lot of cool things that you can touch on, and I was excited to kind of dive into a little bit of that. So, starting off, where are
Sure,
you located? Where are you calling in from?
sure. I'm currently in Billings, Montana. That's where I retired to Montana after 30 years in service. So we're up here, kind of high and dry. We're gonna get our first snow now, which is like 3 months late. But yeah, no, we're doing good up here in Montana.
I got you. How long have you been up there?
I retired in 2014. We retired to Great Falls, and then we moved here to Billings about 7 years ago. So yeah, going 10 years. I've been retired 10 years now. It's pretty amazing.
I've never made it all the way up to Montana. If somebody's visiting for the first time and they're coming to hang out with you, where are you taking them? What are you showing them first?
Oh man. Well, I want people to know that there's 4 cows for every human. That if we divided the state equally, everybody would get their own 27 square miles. And it depends on, I would take you someplace that you haven't seen. So if you haven't seen Yellowstone, that's amazing. Glacier Park's amazing. But there's just wide open spaces and places and rivers, and there's just little spots that are just little touches of heaven. So it depends. The food's unique, the people are unique. It's a good place.
Yeah, you said food's unique. Is unique good? What's unique food in Montana?
Well, I think it depends on what time of year, but we pride ourselves around this is a meat and potato kind of country. People come to Montana and they say, "Gosh, I got to have a steak," and that's not necessarily true. In some parts of Montana, the best thing you'll eat is walleye or trout, stream trout, kind of thing. So it just depends. Just depends on what your taste buds like and those kind of things. I know everybody wants to dive into the food. Up in the northwest of the country, huckleberries are a big thing. So, there's huckleberry jam and huckleberry everything. So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
I
never heard of, Montana cuisine. I knew steak, obviously, but I wasn't
Sure,
sure about the rest. So that's awesome.
yeah,
Um, so what can you tell us about, your story? You started off, you're in the military, you read a book, all
sure,
of it. So what do you like to tell us about yourself?
sure. Well, when you ask a military person, tell us about yourself, it always starts off with, I grew up, right? So I grew up in Northern California in a small town, less than 5,000 that had one stoplight and it was in the wrong spot. I lived outside of town in a dairy farming environment and grew up on a dairy farm and literally, uh, you know, got all of the great things. You have a touch of farm in your world based on where you kind of grew up, but I think everything in life that you need to know is on the farm. Life, death, success, failure, hard work, persistence, adversity. That's all there, and it's on a day-to-day basis if you're doing it right, especially in a dairy environment. Decided that I was going to go in the military way young. I wanted to go in the Navy. Ended up in the Air Force. That's a longer story for a different podcast probably, but wanted to be a plumber. They made me a medic, and God bless the United States military for being able to find your aptitude because medicine really wasn't on my scope. And so once I got into medicine and became a medic, I was pretty good at it. Ended up putting myself through nursing school through my 30 years, and I did shock trauma. The medic business got me lots of education, lots of experience, lots of travel, put me in a lot of situations where I was leading a lot of people, doing a lot of pretty intense stuff to include combat time and all that goes along with that. So along there, my wife and I've been married 31 years, got 2 boys, raised them, drug them all over the world. The whole traditional military brat thing with too many high schools and too many moves and those type of things. Uh, and one of the things I don't think people realize about a long military career like that is you start getting developed as a leader, a leader manager from the day you come in, and they're still developing you up until the day you get out. And so I was pretty fortunate to have a lot of really cool things happen inside the military structure and outside of the military structure to help us out with civilian institutions and networking. So, yeah, it's been great. You know, that takes me to 10 years of retirement. You know, in there, I think we're going to talk a little bit about PTSD and moral injury. And, you know, and I picked those up along the way. And, you know, I talk openly about that. And I think you've got a question about that, and I'll cover that for you. But uh, you know, I'd say these 10 years of transition were tougher than 30 years in the military because you're institutionalized when you go in the military, even if you serve 4 years. And when you come back out, getting back out in the civilian world can be a really tough thing. And so that's my passion now is working on military transition and, you know, helping my brothers and sisters get back in a different fight and making it work right and not getting on the bad side of things because we've got some things we need to clean up with homelessness and mental health needs and even, you know, reducing the daily suicides in the veteran population. So yeah, there's a lot out there to do. So yeah, that's kind of my story. I mean, did I miss something that you're after?
No, all of it. It's all great. I think a lot of people could learn lessons throughout, everything that you've done, whether it be in the military, outside of the military.
Sure.
But just because, time's sake, we'll kind of just hone in on one area. So when you
Ah,
left the military, you said that you're passionate about veteran transition and mental health. What advice would you give, a veteran that's struggling with PTSD or moral injury as they navigate life after service?
well, I don't think anybody that gets out of the United States military should be able to allowed to come back into the civilian world without visiting a mental health professional at least twice. I don't care. I don't care if you've been to combat, haven't been to combat, but have had some level of moral injury, haven't had moral injury, think you're perfectly fine. You don't need that stuff. I think you should go talk to somebody at least twice. Because if you have the right conversations and you're honest with yourself, there's going to be some baggage there that you can clean up early. So that's number one. Number two is that anything that you're struggling with, especially that's service related, PTSD related, those type of things, you're not going to get better, or work through it without some help. So you got to be able to ask for help, get help, and then take the help that's offered, and you know, and continue on with those type of things. And these things are real and they're forever, right? So I own PTSD and moral injury. They're my friends. And as soon as you become an owner and you stop being a victim to them, you can actually use some of that energy in a positive fashion. And when you do that, you'll start to heal, and it makes you easier. It makes it easier to navigate all these things. So, but you know, the underlying thing in there is when you're leaving the military, if you got some scars and bumps, or even if you're not a military person and you've got trauma, because it's real in the civilian world too. If you've got some trauma and you feel it dragging on you a little bit, you need to put on the brakes and ask for help and raise your hand. And sometimes the best help comes from the the people that know you the least well. It doesn't have to be a brother, sister, mother, father. Sometimes it's a professional or it's a you know, a clergyman. You know, my Christian faith has probably been more helpful in dealing with all of this than anything. So
Yeah, that's true. A lot of the people around you, they want to help you, but they can't be as objective as somebody that's, a third party, that
right
maybe
on.
they've seen it before and they can give you advice that others wouldn't. So that is important. But yeah, you left the military, you became passionate about that, but then,
Mm.
you were an emergency manager during COVID-19.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at COVID-19 or other disasters, coming from that, what are some of the most challenging decisions that you had to make, and what lessons did you take away from those
Mm.
experiences?
Well, when you're the guy in the hot seat, right? When you're the incident commander and you're in the hot seat, you have to, you know, one of my rules when I go into anything like that is that nobody's allowed to get to know. We always have to get to yes. It doesn't mean that we can do it, but we have to get to yes because if you're in a problem solving mode, you know, mentality, if you're in a problem solving mentality, you're going to solve problems that you're going to need to solve later when you do have the resources to solve them. And you need to do the work when the concern is there instead of working to know, instead of throwing up a bunch of barriers as to why we can't do things like that. And it's really hard to get people out of that mentality because human default is to get to know, right? Because fear and pain are the things that paralyze us. So we kind of have to work through that. It's the challenge in something like COVID is that, you know, and I was working with a college or a university. The challenge with something like COVID is that you have to bring people together in an environment not only to address what the emergency was, what the, you know, the virus and how to deal with, you know, daily activities dealing with this thing, but you had culture and you had beliefs and you had um, politics and all the things that went along with that. And you got to find a balance and how do you hold your team together and keep them focused on the bigger picture and be respectful to everybody along the way and just not run over the top of people. So it was it was pretty interesting. Uh, Dynamic to work through. But it's not any different than combat. There's fog and friction and all of that. And the more clarity that you can provide to people through proper communication, clear, concise, credible, and consistent communication, it's magical. So
So we talk to a lot of, entrepreneurs, professionals, people starting their own businesses, just leaders in general. In your book, Giving Back, you share lessons on leadership in life. What's one key story from the book that you believe would be relevant to that group?
right. Well, there's a chapter in there called "Listen on a 3x5 card." And when I was a young leader and I was coming up, I'm not a dumb guy. I got a high IQ and I've kind of lucked out for senior leader positions because I probably had some aptitude. Thank goodness for good genes and I guess good raising, but good education. But my my gap early on, and it's been a gap even till now, that I have to work on every day, is this ability to listen. And I write about listen on a 3x5 card because I literally had to write in block letters the word listen and put that card in my pocket when I would go to certain meetings to stick my hand in my pocket and grab that card to kind of temper myself so that I was using a different communication skill. So yeah, the 67, the 60-second drop note on that one is if you can't listen, you're not as effective as a leader as you can be.
Yeah, that's accurate. If you're ignoring, the input, how can you manage the output? So that's absolutely accurate. So you've mentored many young leaders over the years. What qualities do you think make somebody an effective mentor, and how can leaders be better in supporting the next generation?
Mentoring. Well, so you have to be careful if you have a generational gap when you mentor. So you got to do your own homework. When somebody, when you're mentoring somebody, if you mentor from your prism, from your bias, from your perception, you may miss the mark with somebody because you're going to say things that don't resonate with them. So, for instance, if I'm mentoring somebody on finance and I tell them, hey, you need to get an investment counselor and have them work on your 401ks and do all of these kind of things and how that's going to work into your social security. Young people today will tell you, I'm not having social security. I got to do this by myself. So you better research what they think the right methods and modes are for what their life looks like 40, 50 years down the road when they're ready to retire, because it's not the same math problem. And so if you're going to mentor somebody, you better understand what their day-to-day challenges are generationally. So you need to do some homework. It's not just sitting on a pedestal. Mentoring is not sitting on a pedestal, crossing your arms, continuously telling people how old you are, where you've been, and what you've done. But that all gets you in the door. What keeps you around as a mentor is your ability to be flexible and to have some empathy and to learn from their perspective. Because I find mentorship is something that grows me just as well as growing anybody else.
Yeah, no, I can see that if you're a mentor and you're just kind of super rigid and you don't learn or adapt, and you're kind of, timing yourself out. You were really good then because things change, and especially if you're looking at things like business, being able to adapt to the new technologies and new marketplace that we find ourselves in. All the old stuff is still super relevant, but it needs to be put through the lens of what else is out there now, which I think we're finding some really good folks out there that do that, and it's really interesting to see. So. You've been, you've had a long story career. What do you think your favorite thing is that you've been doing?
Right now, well, the passion is the spectrum transition thing. But you know what my favorite thing is, Anthony, is it's relearning how to take care of myself, to put myself first. And that's going to sound odd, but a lot of times, especially in the entrepreneurial world and these hard driving things where you've got at least this mental organizational chart that you're climbing, you want to be at the top of something or you want to run things. And that's all sexy and good. And it comes with more money and the responsibility. And it's, for men, especially, it's this label of success, right? That who you are becomes what you are. And so when you sit down, I always ask people, how do you answer the question when somebody introduces yourself? to you on an airplane and you're going to be on a 3 hour ride, what are you going to tell them if it's a long conversation? Or are you just going to dwell on the fact that, well, I grew up here and I'm the president of this or I'm vice president of this, and you're going to dwell on that? Or is there more to you? And so it's been kind of nice to not be in that mainstream thing. What I would say is here's a piece of advice: is you can do that while you're in it. You can pull yourself off of what you are, and everybody understands who you are, especially if you have some name badge on your shirt or you go to a certain office. Everybody knows who you are, but they'll have more respect for you when they watch who you are with yourself and how you take care of yourself and how you respect yourself and how you give yourself time and how you have boundaries. Far too often, we just run around without boundaries and we want to gobble up everything because we have this need for purpose, and how we fill that is sometimes unhealthy. And so I've had the time to say, wow, Dave, here's some things that you could have done better, but I still have time to recover from that and really enjoy me. Because I kind of like me. You got to like you before you can like anybody else, buddy.
That's fantastic advice because as a leader or getting started into something new, it can kind of overwhelm you at first, and if you don't set time aside to work on yourself or like yourself, it's going to affect the rest of it. So it's kind of a trap that people can fall into, that it's important to have in the back of your mind. Nope, I got to have boundaries. This is my schedule. This is this. That makes sense. I really like that.
Yeah, I don't know how much I don't know how what the level of your listeners are, and I'm sure you have some groupies that listen to this all the time. If you wake up every day and you don't like what you're doing, but you're doing what you're doing because you think you have to, you're in the wrong spot.
Yep. Nope. Absolutely. Again, fantastic advice. If you're miserable, you're going to be miserable at everything. So,
Yeah.
um, what do you think one of the more valuable lessons that you learned in your Air Force career would be, if somebody's looking at it as a way of interpreting into their entrepreneurial life?
Well, as a leader early on, and it made me successful, but it left gaps. You have to slow down to go faster. And what I mean is if you ever look at a road worker and he's going down a highway and he's assessing it to whether or not it needs work, potholes or the shoulders need to be fixed. Does he drive at 90 miles an hour or does he drive at 9 miles an hour? He drives at 9 miles an hour because that's the speed that he has to go to get a full assessment, because he'll miss 10 out of every 11 things that need to be fixed. So how fast are you going and what are you missing? And you've got to slow down. And really the point on this, Anthony, is you will not have empathy for anybody that you lead if you're going a million miles an hour. Because the only way to do that is you have to slow down and you have to have some level of relationship with the people that you lead, so that you have enough empathy that you understand what the magnitude of your decisions are. Doesn't mean you have to make decisions to make them happy. It means you have to understand what you're making them feel and do when you make the decision, because then you have to communicate clearly as to why. And, bad news doesn't get better with time. And human beings are actually really good with clear, concise, credible, and consistent communication, even if they don't like the message.
We've talked a lot about leadership and mentorship and stuff. Um, what would you say it takes to lead effectively during a crisis?
So I can talk. I told you just before we got on here, we learn from our mistakes and we reflect, but the history and looking back, it's only to go, so that when you're in a similar situation moving forward, you don't do the same things. Unfortunately, it seems like humanity wants to just keep repeating those mistakes at times. What I'd say is that, especially in crisis situations, if you're a leader in a crisis situation, how you act every single day or every single minute dictates how everybody else will act. If you're mad, everybody's mad. If you think something is you know throw in your explicitive, then that's what it is. If you say things like, "It's going to be okay, we got this, it's all good, onward, move forward," and everybody comes to you with 10,000 things that are broken, and you say, "Well, then tell me what works." Everybody calms down, right? Instead of going, oh my goodness, we don't have enough people. Or if you, whatever you say or do is what the situation becomes. And so you really have to work on this, on your temperament and those type of things. And boy, I've screwed that up over the years. I've
I,
screwed it up.
I think we all have. So you said that humans are really good at following set, do this, do this, do this. So if you're a veteran, you're just transitioning out of the military. Day one, you have PTSD, you have moral injury. Day one, what should they do?
Get out, get out and find, you got it. You're going to have to find your community. You're looking for it anyway. You're losing your community. You're losing your identity. You're losing your sense of purpose. You're not going to, you're not going to have your battle buddies and your wingmen and your shipmates, side by side with you. And it can be a little bit lonely. And so you need to find a community and you need to find some help. And you need to say out loud what's going on with you. Get to church, man. Get to church. I tell you, everybody wants a great book to read, and I'm going to give you my stuff, and you can read my book. It's an easy read. I wrote it for entrepreneurs that are busy and got a lot of things to do. It's I wrote it exactly in that format so that you can consume things in short moments. But I'll tell you, the Bible's a great book. Just you don't got to have a Bible on your desk every day and read it and study it, even though that there's a lot of value in that. Go to Google sometime and type in your life problems and say, just give me 3 or 4 Bible verses and look at those. They're just as good of advice as any, 10 ways, 12 habits and 17 hows and all the whys and all these books that we've got that look like cookbooks, right? Tear the back page out, just do 1 through 12 and then you're good to go. It's a lifelong journey and you need to have the right things in your life. So I think if I was recommending a book, just pick up the Bible, use it. There's lots of ways to learn it a lot quicker than the old ways.
Again, fantastic advice. And coming from a medic, I think that means a lot. Get help immediately. If you're dealing with a traumatic, a physical injury, you don't sit there and let it just do its thing. You
Right.
go and you get it fixed now. All right, because it's going to just do nothing but get worse. And we need to start looking at mental health the same way, where it's you're dealing with stuff. Let's start working on it now, right? You're going to have to go get help. So yeah, I really, really like that. Is there anything that I missed that you wanted to add?
No, again, I'm going to go back to, I don't want to be a corny here, but I know a guy is a great name for a show, for what your audience is. And I guess what I want to say here, and I hope I'm going to hit on where your passion is with this, Anthony, is whoever's on your life team, the guy that you know, or the guy that knows the guy, is more valuable than all the money in the bank. You want to be a good entrepreneur and a good leader and a good father and a good mother and a good, whatever. You want to be those things, you got to know a guy or a gal.
Yep, you're building your network. The
And
relationship is worth more than any sale that you can have.
and some of those people are going to be on your life team. So it goes back to your last question. Lean on your life team, but you got to build the right life team.
Yep, and that comes with what you said earlier about listening, because listen,
Absolutely.
make sure that the person that you're going to want to put there. So awesome, fantastic advice. What's the best way that people reach you?
So I'll make it easy on everybody because the book, the work, I blog quite often, so there's lots of blogs there. There's probably a whole book of blogs in there. www.maxfabconsulting.com, maxfab consulting.com. That's how you can get a hold of me there, free consult. Just they can schedule time on my calendar and we can jump on and just have a chit chat like this, even if it's a short mentoring thing. See if there's something there that I can help with. And if not, support the work and yeah, I look forward to maybe hearing from some of your folks.
Perfect. And I'll be sure to put that in the description so we don't have to try and spell it out. And I'll copy and paste it. So if it's misspelled, it's your fault, not mine. So, no
Hey
problem.
man, yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
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 right on.
absolutely. So if anybody'd like to get a hold of Dave, absolutely reach out. You're going to be better off. If you're dealing with some stuff, reach out to the people that are going to help you start building your community. Take care of yourself. So if you're a little bit more shy and you prefer an introduction, just ask me. I'd be more than happy to introduce you as well.
Right
If
on.
somebody out there would like to be interviewed, feel free, get a hold of me. I'll have my link tree in the description as well. Grab a time on my calendar. I'd love to have a conversation. But again, Dave, I really appreciate you coming on, sharing some of your story and some advice for all of us. I think there's a lot of good nuggets in there that, like, I'm probably gonna have to go back while editing and take some notes myself.
Right.
So I'll do that. But yeah, let's all get out there. Let's start working on taking care of ourselves, being better listeners, and meeting more people. All right.
Amen.